Solace, there's 6 games coming up on Saturday, and probably the top draws would be the game between West Ham and Manchester City, the defending champions, and we also have the one between Spurs and Aston Villa. Just to drill down on the game between Spurs and Aston Villa, Mauricio Pochettino is going to be bringing out his shining new toys, if you can call it that, especially Tanguy Ndombele, who I believe is an absolutely fantastic addition to this side. But first, what do you think about him?
I think Tanguy Ndombele is precisely the sort of player that Tottenham have been crying out for a very long time. The second half of last season saw them basically play without a midfield. No disrespect to a player like Musa Sissoko, who reinvented himself impressively.
Yeah.
But for the second half of last season, Tottenham really outsourced that midfield zone and they got by without it. Since Musa Dembele left the club, they've not really had someone who can put his foot on the ball and drive the team forward through the middle of the pitch, either carrying the ball or through intelligent forward-thinking passing. So him coming into the team is just a masterstroke, and I am still gobsmacked that none of the major teams picked him up ahead of Spurs.
Okay, yeah, none of them did. But going back to that game between Aston Villa and Spurs and Aston Villa, rather, do you think Villa stand any chance in that particular fixture?
Yeah, traditionally Spurs are a team that start pretty slow in the Premier League. We've seen that through the tenure of Mauricio Pochettino at Spurs. Generally, they tend to start the season a bit shaky and then build up a head of steam and momentum going into the mid part of the season. So this is as good a time as any for Aston Villa to be playing them. Aston Villa, for my money, one of the they're probably the best equipped team of the promoted sides.
I think that is where probably the problem for me comes in, where they have too many players. They have to blend into the squad. They have to build team cohesion and all of these things.
That is problematic, but it's important to point out that there's really no other way they could have done this. They achieved promotion last year on the back of a lot of loan players who had to go back. They've lost their top scorer, Tammy Abraham, who has returned to Chelsea and work with Frank Lampard over there. So these signings were a matter of necessity, and since they're replacing players who were on loan last season, it kind of whittles down gives them focus. They're able to, focus on what matters and, leave the superfluous aspects. So they have what happened to Fulham last year as a cautionary tale, so they know what to avoid. So I think gelling the team, of course, is going to be a bit of an issue, but if they start very strong, who knows?
So going into the game between West Ham and Manchester City, do you think this West Ham side are going to be brave enough against Man City, seeing that they've brought in really, really good players in Sabela and Pablo Fornals?
This question you asked really comes down to one of my frustrations with most of the teams that played Manchester City last season, in that Manchester City are this well-grooved, well-oiled machine. If you sit back, they're going to pick you off anyway. So I kind of wish that more teams would actually go at them, have a go, see what happens. I mean, worst case scenario, you lose, but you already know this is the best team in the league. So I think, for one thing, Manchester City will not be expecting West Ham to step to them. And at the start of the season, when they're perhaps not quite 100% fresh, this is just the right moment for West Ham to go at them and stun them early on, if they're brave enough to do it. So yeah.
So heading into the game on Sunday, you have Manchester United against Chelsea. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is going to be bringing in his new additions. You have Aaron Wan-Bissaka, you have Harry Maguire. Maybe Daniel James is not going to be starting, but for Chelsea, it's not going to be any of that because they're currently on the transfer ban. Do you think both teams are properly equipped to be facing each other at this sort of time in the league?
To be facing each other, maybe, but for the league, absolutely not. I do not understand what these two teams are thinking with the managerial appointments. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came in last season, and there was that initial, new manager bounce and everything looked. Yes, exactly. But after a while, it all faded away, and I'm not sure exactly why Manchester United looked at that body of work holistically and decided to give him the job on a permanent basis. Chelsea have brought in Frank Lampard, great, he's a club legend and everything. He did relatively well with Derby last season, getting them into the playoff final, but beyond that, he has no real experience as a manager in the top flight. So I do not understand the thought processes for these clubs, and that's further exacerbated in terms of recruitment for both teams, in that Manchester United have a lot of money, but they don't seem to know what to do with it. Chelsea have a lot of money, but they can't spend it. So both sides come into the Premier League season slightly under-equipped. So I don't know. I think it lends itself to a really fun game on Sunday, but the prognosis for the Premier League season as a whole for both teams is not looking good at all.
Yeah, looking at this Chelsea side, you look at their front line, you see the likes of Giroud, you see Pulisic, you see Willian and Pedro, and importantly, you see Tammy Abraham. Do you think this front line inspires any sort of confidence for a team that needs to be contending for Champions League places?
I think when you look at it overall, they just about have enough quality within the team itself. But on an individual basis, I am not so sure that that is a front line I would look at and say, okay, this team has serious aspirations for the top of the Premier League. Can they get into the Champions League? Absolutely. They did that last season. But this season, they are missing their talisman and their best player, Eden Hazard, who has gone to Real Madrid. And replacing him is going to be a tough ask for anyone. So that's a lot of pressure already on Christian Pulisic to start with. So their forward options, I don't know. They are basically asking for a lot of players to step up all at once. Tammy Abraham has never really done it in the Premier League. For all that, he has been impressive in the Championship, playing for various teams. That's a whole lot of pressure on his shoulders. We talked about Pulisic. There's also a lot of pressure now on the shoulders of Willian, who has taken on number 10 shirt to step up and be the new face of the team going forward. I mean, that's when you require so many variables to go right. Any one thing that goes wrong can have cataclysmic effects on the rest of the team.
Yeah, just sustaining to a Manchester United team. I'm going to be talking about their midfield now. There's so many uncertainties there. You have Pogba, you have Matic, you have Fred, but you're trying to get a midfield that works. What sort of midfield would you think works for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going into this season?
With the players that he has, I have no idea, because that's really one area that I'm a little surprised Manchester United have not strengthened in. We all know that, according to reports, Paul Pogba is not exactly pleased to be around the place, but and even when he is pleased, his style of play is a little mercurial. You never know what you're going to get. So that's really one area that Manchester United could have done with strengthening. They've lost Ander Herrera, who is an underrated player, very unfussy, gets the job done, puts himself about, but now they've lost that. Really expecting the likes of Scott McTominay to step up in midfield, and also Andreas Pereira. That's a big ask for these young players. And really in that zone, you never get the sense that United are settled and have structure in terms of both the profile of player they want and also the right profile for the tactical system, whatever it is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants to play.
Okay, the other games on Sunday, one really piques my interest. That's Leicester against Wolves. I think it's a gem.
Yes,
really. When
yes,
you look at that game.
two very upwardly mobile teams. I'm really looking forward to that one myself. It'll be interesting to watch.
So both of them, you're looking at them probably them cracking the top 6 or maybe finishing 7th. Which team do you think has the advantage at this point?
I would definitely say Leicester. Some of their business this summer has been pretty darn impressive. Yuri Tielemans is a player that really most teams in the top 6 should be happy to have, but here he is at Leicester, and they've also brought in Dennis Praet from Anderlecht. So they have a really strong squad. They have a settled manager with a philosophy that he's honed over the years. So I think this is a meeting of two teams that have a lot going for them. And while it's too early to say whoever wins this has the edge already, but it's a good time to put a marker down. Okay,
wrapping up the games on Sunday, you have Newcastle against Arsenal, Nicolas Pepe, Aubameyang, Lacazette against the defense of Newcastle. Do you see them scoring too many goals?
I don't see them scoring that many goals. It's important, of course, to point out that Nicolas Pepe has not exactly featured for Arsenal just yet. There are concerns about how he will handle the physicality of the Premier League. We'll have to see how that pans out. Also, we are not sure exactly how fit Alexander Lacazette is. So, I mean, that fabled front three, we might have to wait a little bit longer to see them, all flowing together. But I think there's enough firepower there to see off Newcastle. In any case, Newcastle themselves are not exactly settled. They've lost Salomon Rondon last season. They've lost Jose Perez. So they have a bit of retooling they're also doing up front. So Arsenal are the more settled team and have the better players. I don't see why they shouldn't win.
So what's your prediction, Manchester United against Chelsea?
Manchester United against Chelsea, I'm going for a draw, and I think it will be high scoring, 2-2.
Leicester against Wolves?
Leicester Wolves. Another draw there for me. And I would also go for 2-2.
Yeah, wrapping it up, Newcastle against Arsenal.
Newcastle, Arsenal, 2-0.
Okay, thank you so much for coming, Solace. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome, Solomon. Thank you.